So a future collaboration, Our Search for Symbols, is a presentation that will share a new perspective of the impact of symbols and explore ways in which symbols from the past are still relevant today. This is the culmination of my research on Henry Dreyfuss's Symbol Sourcebook, an authoritative guide to international graphic symbols, which serves as the inspiration for the upcoming exhibition at Cooper Hewitt, provisionally titled This Side Up, How Symbols Work, opening spring 2023. The exhibition, inspired by the history of the Sourcebook and the Henry Dreyfuss Archive at Cooper Hewitt, uses design to tell the story of the collaborative and universal nature of symbol design. I conducted this research as a curatorial capstone fellow at the Cooper Hewitt while a student in the Parsons School of Design MA History of Design and Curatorial Studies program. I graduated from the program May 2022. Thank you all for being here. A big thank you to Sarah Lichman, my advisor and former director of the History of Design and Curatorial Studies program at Parsons, the Cooper Hewitt staff for making me feel very welcome in your museum, in your meetings, and in your archive. Emily Orr and Adriana Berkins at Cooper Hewitt for allowing me the privilege to work with you as part of your curatorial team, for always listening to my input and ideas and supporting my going down many rabbit holes. It has been a great pleasure to be on your team. And finally to Sue Perkins for a wonderful day spent in the archive together with Emily, discussing the Sourcebook, Henry Dreyfuss, design in general, and for the opportunity to present my research to you all today. There are a few things I'd like to share in this presentation. The Henry Dreyfuss Archive, using archives in general, my research for the exhibition, where to begin research and where it takes you, what I've learned about how to tell stories and not having to share every detail or to begin at the beginning or end at the ending to set someone on the path of curiosity. What is TMS? Who is Henry Dreyfuss? What is the Henry Dreyfuss Symbol Sourcebook? What is it like to work on an exhibition? And ultimately, what is design, which is one of the goals of this exhibition? Slide 2, please. One of the ideas that we had as an introduction to the exhibition, even before entering the space, was for visitors to think about what symbols were encountered on their way to the museum. How did they arrive here? Were they wearing any symbols? What were they bringing to the exhibition? I want you to take a moment and think about this, and to think about this symbol that I have on the slide. I will come back to it at the end of the presentation. Slide 3, please. Who is Henry Dreyfuss? In about 75 words or less. Henry Dreyfuss was an American-born industrial designer whose career began in the 1920s, originally in set design. With the opening of his firm in 1928, he rose to become one of the most prolific American industrial designers, creating iconic designs for companies such as John Deere, Hoover, Honeywell, and Polaroid Camera, among many others. His work until his death in 1972 focused on the user experience and fitting the machine to the man rather than the man to the machine. Slide 4, please. What is the Henry Dreyfuss Symbol Sourcebook? More than 75 words. The Symbol Sourcebook was a project that Henry Dreyfuss officially began when he resigned from his firm in 1969 to begin his own management consulting business. A new partnership named Henry Dreyfuss Associates moved to New York City while Henry Dreyfuss remained in Pasadena, California. Although Dreyfuss continually thought about the importance of symbols, the story of the Symbol Sourcebook comes together at the end of his career, not the beginning. He died together with his wife and partner in design, Doris Marks, the year it was published in 1972. The Henry Dreyfuss Archive at the Cooper Hewitt was donated by him in 1972 as well. Slide 5, please. These photos are of photostats of the original Brown Book, which is a complete list of all projects' dates, essentially a biography of his work in office. The original Brown Book is in the archive, but it is not a condition to be handled and flipped through. So even though there is an original, a photostat was created for purposes of study. Slide 6, please. Although many of the symbols included in the Symbol Sourcebook were designed throughout the lifespan of Dreyfuss's office, the project only appeared as an official project with McGraw-Hill Book Company, started March 1st, 1970, and actual work completed 1271. This is corroborated by partner Donald Gennaro in an email correspondence with us in March. Donald Gennaro states, the Symbol Sourcebook was a project that HD personally oversaw after his retirement from the firm. It was written at our California office before the new partnership, me included, closed that office in favor of locating the entire firm in New York City. I nor anyone in the New York office had any involvement except, of course, the hundreds of symbols we created over the years for clients' projects that wound up in the book. Slide 7, please. Why the Henry Dreyfuss Symbol Sourcebook? The Henry Dreyfuss Symbol Sourcebook is the inspiration for the exhibition, The Side Up: How Symbols Work. The year 2022, which was the original opening date, was to be the 50th anniversary of the sourcebook. It is a design object in the Cooper Hewitt Archive, and the Cooper Hewitt Archive is home to the Henry Dreyfuss Archive. And although Dreyfuss is well known for his design work, the story of the Symbol Sourcebook may not be. This is a design story waiting to be told. Slide 8, please. The Henry Dreyfuss Symbol Sourcebook is not a complete history or a complete source for symbols. The sourcebook is an archive and one that was meant for the needs of the people for the future, created as a collaboration for future designers, one that was intended to be used as a tool to continue thinking about a universal means of communication, an idea that began in the 1960s, to be shared and told from and with the perspective of today. After the title page of the original publication, there is a plea for more symbols. Dreyfuss's interest in symbols was a continuing one that he wanted to pass on to the future. He reached out to everyone. The archive is filled with correspondence asking for symbols and thanks for receiving symbols. There are folders with symbols that were not included in the source book, but that would become part of the data bank that Dreyfuss referenced in his many letters and in his plea. In the list of acknowledgements, Dreyfuss writes, "Finally, though first in importance," and includes a list of the team behind the source book. Slide 9, please. Behind all good designers are more good designers. Here is the team at work: Paul Clifton, Catherine Bray, George Ball, Pamela Holliday, Jeanette McFarland, Doris Marks, Henry Dreyfuss. Slide 10, please. A questionnaire was included in the press release packet from the publisher, McGraw-Hill, and in the teaser book for the source book. It was also included in the materials for the Hallmark Gallery exhibition in 1972. This questionnaire was used to further the work of the source book, as Dreyfuss wanted the search for symbols to continue for a future data bank after the initial publication. Slide 11, please. Introduction. In the introduction, Dreyfuss refers to his own interest in graphic symbols and how the databank now contains over 20,000 of them. He writes, "My name on the title page is not so much to take credit as to assume the responsibility for the book's organization and content. It is titled a source book to explain that it is not a dictionary, which would imply completeness." And another paragraph states, "And certainly it is planned for designers who create new symbols in the hope that its guidance will stimulate their creativity." Slide 12, please. In the source book's foreword by our Buckminster Fuller states, "Because I know him well, I know that he has been intuitively inspired in this visual communication development by a foresighted realization that graphic symbols could mean far more to humanity than the immediate facilitation of the business of his specific industrial clients." Henry Dreyfuss's contribution to a new world technique of communication will catalyze a world preoccupation with its progressive evolution into a worldly language. Slide 13, please. These notes by Henry Dreyfuss are finds from my archive visit on August 18, 2021. The handwritten notes include why Buckminster Fuller is the ideal person and friend to write the foreword to the source book. Buckminster Fuller's interest in worldly affairs and his insistence on a global singleness makes him the happiest choice to open this source book. And in all honesty, it was just super cool to include Henry Dreyfuss's handwriting in this presentation and to be witness, in a sense, of the kinship these two men had for each other. No, this is slide 14. Oh, slide 14, please. More from the archive visit on August 18th, 2021. On the left is a letter dated October 11th, 1971 to John Follis about the source book going to print and acceptance of his symbol enclosures for what Henry Dreyfuss describes as an archive for the future. Dreyfuss writes, quote, "We are keeping the archive open and active." On the right is a letter dated July 29th, 1970 to Judge Henry Friendly. Dreyfuss writes, symbols are all over our walls, all over our floors, and literally coming out of our ears. Slide 15, please. Henry Dreyfuss was not only a prolific designer, but he wrote many essays, articles, gave presentations, slideshows, and this is all in the archive. This is just more from my visit on August 18th. Slide 16, please. And slide 17. And this one dated September 15th, 1969, titled A Comprehensive Symbol Data Bank. Slide 18, please. Slide 19. How do you tell the story of the Symbol Sourcebook, and what exactly is this exhibition about? How do we use the archive to tell this potential story? We knew that we did not want the story to be about the past. Design is about the needs of the future. Thinking about the future is hopeful. Design is hopeful. Henry Dreyfuss cared about the needs of people, and the sourcebook looked to the future. We thought of this idea in a few ways and brainstormed some guiding questions, then dug into the sourcebook. We focused on a few symbols and researched them to present as case studies that would ask more questions. How have some of these symbols inspired change into the future? What stories are present today that can be traced back to these symbols? How can these symbols serve as inspiration moving forward? Slide 20, please. We took to the collaborative and remote work-friendly Miro board to work out ideas, map out the exhibition space, and upload our thoughts, images, and stories. This is the process lab, but the exhibition planning has since moved to the process galleries. We use this to walk and to talk through a potential exhibition. Slide 21, please. Slide 22. My focus included 3 case studies. Case study number 1, vehicle controls. Slide 23. Specifically, the symbol for platform lift, which is labeled here as platform height, but I will get to that in a few slides. Slide 24. Henry Dreyfuss not only designed tractors and equipment for John Deere, but he also designed the symbols that appeared on and in the equipment. This was a time when consideration for universal communication was necessary. In 1938, John Deere tractors were being sold across the globe, and the need for worldwide symbols for operator controls was imperative as a matter of safety. He developed an entire vocabulary of symbols versus written instructions, with symbols that there was no need for translation. Dreyfuss stated, "Symbols can cut across language barriers." This example is also a good way to introduce Henry Dreyfuss to the visitor that may not be familiar with his work as an industrial designer. Slide 25. The archive not only contained a sample of the knob, but also the mechanical drawing. Slide 26. A photo of the knob as it would appear in the tractor. Slide 27. And these documents, a letter referencing asking for samples, the shipping inventory list of enclosed knobs, and a copy of the John Deere Design Data Manual 26. Slide 28. All in the many boxes and folders of the archive. Slide 29, please. One of the challenges was to create consistent labeling across these materials. The same symbol knob is called platform height and platform lift, but also the knobs themselves have a few different names: vehicle control knobs, operator control knobs, equipment control knobs, operator controls. For labeling purposes, we went with operator control knobs, knobs platform lift, part number 77744. This was another part of my experience on the project, working with TMS, the museum system, learning about the system and the importance of consistency in labeling for the museum and for the exhibition itself. Slide 30. While I'm on the subject of TMS, I input the many iterations of the Henry Dreyfuss office in constituents and alternative names for future labeling on the objects from the collection. Slide 31. Case study number 2, folklore, hobo signs. Slide 32. Specifically, these signs. What are hobo signs? They are chalk or coal markings on fences, sides of buildings, railroad cards that were left to communicate with other hobos for things like, nice lady lives here, or this is not a safe place, or good road to follow. The signs did not require conventional literacy. The signs were also temporary in nature. The term hobo originated in 1890 in the US and was used mostly in the Northwest. It was associated with railroads and the mostly men that were looking for work hopping on and off trains. At the end of World War II, diesel engines replaced steam engines, and the trains moved much quicker, which made hopping on and off more difficult. This, along with post-war prosperity, led to the decline of the hobo community. These signs served a very specific community, and since they were temporary in nature, finding evidence of hobo signs in the wild today has proven to be a very difficult task. There is also a chance that all this has been fabricated for storytelling. As a side note and an example of one of my rabbit holes, hobos also had monikers, leaving their marks on boxcars. There was a connection to these monikers inspiring modern day graffiti, specifically a story that I found regarding the artist Basquiat, with him incorporating hobo signs that he found in the Symbol Sourcebook into his paintings. Slide 33, please. My research on hobo signs led me to Golan Levin and his QR codes for the digital nomad that he created in association with Fat Labs. We thought, are QR codes symbols? Not really, but the idea that the hobo signs inspired this message of communication, even theoretically, is compelling. The messaging is very specific to the time and place in the same way that the hobo signs served its community in a very specific time and place. Instead of nice lady lives here and good road to follow, we see free Wi-Fi and good veggie burger. Levin states, these stencils can be understood as a covert markup scheme for urban spaces, providing directions, information, and warnings to digital nomads. We present these as modern equivalents of the chalk-based hobo signs to cope with the difficulty of nomadic life. Slide 34, please. Levin created these QR hobo codes and the QR stenciler. The stenciler is a free utility that converts the codes into vector-based stencil patterns that can be laser cut. Another side note in one of my rabbit holes. I found an organization called Greater Change. It is backed by Oxford University and creates wearable barcodes for rough sleepers, which allows for a means of identification and direct assistance. Instead of cash, which is a familiar method in which aid is given to the unhoused population, donations are made directly into the account of the individual in need. The account is connected to services which provides the need directly to the individual. The process increases the interactions between people, but the criticism of the project is that it commodifies the unhoused community. Slide 35. Recreation, Olympics, case study number 3. Slide 36, please. Specifically, the 1964 Olympic pictograms. A big thank you to Professor Julie Dragonow at Parsons School of Design for sharing her work with me on Olympic symbols with her new publication, Designing the Olympics, Representation, Participation, Contestation. Katsuma Masaru was the design director that led the team of designers to create the 1964 Tokyo Olympic pictograms. The design team's goal was to create a visual language that embraced an international, universalist, modern system that could be understood by all. This aligned with Dreyfuss's approach to creating the Symbol Sourcebook. Katsumi's idea was to donate the copyrights of the pictograms to the International Olympic Committee to create an international relay of pictorial language for the future Olympics. The idea was to create a system that could be passed on and reworked by future designers of future Olympics, all with the common goal of universal communication. Slide 37, please. The 1964 pictograms were adopted by designers for the 1972 Munich and Sapporo Olympics and the 1976 Winter Montreal Olympics, but the relay was discontinued after 1976. On January 28, 2022, we met at the archive for more research, and I was hoping to find some correspondence between Dreyfuss and Katsumi. There was a Katsumi article mentioned in one of the letters and folders labeled ICOGRADA, International Council of Graphic Design Associations, which both Katsumi and Dreyfuss were a part of, but nothing yet directly relating between Dreyfuss and Katsumi. This research is to be continued. Slide 38, please. Seeing the 1964 Tokyo Olympic pictograms in the Symbol Sourcebook and connecting them to the 2020 Tokyo Olympic pictograms that were, of course, in 2021 and happening in real time during my research seemed like a good place to dive into a design story. In researching the design of the 2020 pictograms, designer Masaki Hiromura and his team of designers looked to the 1964 Olympic pictograms and this continuation of the original relay idea of Katsumi. If you look closely at the two sets of pictograms, you can see the design connection. But what makes the 2020 pictogram so engaging to us today is this idea of participation. I thought, how do symbols engage people as participants rather than users? The 2020 pictograms use movement as the main design element. They symbolize the participation in the sporting events by the athletes, not just as a symbol of the sporting event. Slide 39, please. This is seen with even more clarity in the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic pictograms, where individual bodies are represented as participants. Slide 40, please. These stills are taken from a concept video of the Tokyo 2020 Paralympic pictograms, showing the human body at the center of the design. Slide 41, please. We thought maybe the best way to tell this story of the pictograms in the exhibition was through a video, through movement. This is the beginning of a storyboard, again, working in Miro. Slide 42. Interactive activities. Alongside case studies, interactive activities could be incorporated into the exhibition to allow the visitor to engage in symbol design and a potential symbol sourcebook of the future. Part of this engagement introduces the work of contemporary working designers as examples to provide inspiration. Andy Mason and Diva Pardue are two designers that we have been in contact with and who are excited to be considered for the exhibition. Some of the guiding questions here would be, what new symbols do we need? How is a symbol designed? The poster on the left is by Diva Pardue, who in 2016 founded For All Womankind and designed this now iconic femme-fist image that went viral during the Women's March. The digital sticker on the right is by Andy Mason, a native Houstonian and graphic designer who created a set of emoji illustrations of the things he liked about Houston and then turned them into digital stickers that he posted and sold on the Apple App Store. The Be Someone sticker was created in March 2017. Mason stated, "This rail bridge in Houston was graffitied with Be Someone as a way of encouraging people to make a difference in their lives." Andy said that he really loved seeing this driving toward downtown and wanted to include it in his stickers. Slide 43, please. Back to the beginning of my presentation. Did anyone recognize the symbol I had up in the second slide? Here it is again in the category of basic symbols from the source book. Slide 44, please. It is a symbol for continuously variable. The definition: a continuous variable is a variable whose value is obtained by measuring, i.e. one which can take on an uncountable set of values. It can be seen in volume or power controls. This was one of the first symbols that Emily, Adriana, and I were enamored by, the name and the connection to this idea that there are infinite possibilities within our search for symbols. Slide 45, please. This is the end page of the January-February 2022 edition of Dwell magazine. One last thing. The symbol continuously variable is on Einar Egnell's 1956 breast pump. As part of my studies at Parsons, I had the opportunity to assist teaching an undergraduate class, History of Design 1850 to present. Egnell's breast pump is a design object that is presented to students at the end of the semester as part of the Contemporary Design Lecture given by design historian Michelle Miller Fisher. Fisher discusses her design project, exhibition, and book, Designing Motherhood. I presented this object 3 times to 3 different classes and never noticed the symbol until I saw it while reading Twill magazine in the January 2022 issue. It is the first thing I saw when I turned to this last page. Fortunately, I continue to teach at Parsons as part-time faculty and will look forward to sharing this object and symbol with new inspiration this semester. Slide 46. Thank you all for listening, and remember to keep your eyes open.